Okay. Once again, welcome everyone. My name is Marcy. I lead the grassroots community program at Fiverr. We're so excited to have Georgie-Ann get McCoy with us today. This is actually her third webinar for Fiverr in the past 2 months. So Georgie, thank you so much for thank you so much for being such an awesome and active part of our community. Today she's going to be talking about how to transfer your expertise into a virtual event, which I know a ton of people are looking to do right now. So we're really excited to have you here to talk about that. And without further ado, take it away, Georgie.
Thank you so much, Marcy. Yes, I am back again because, I think Fiverr right now is definitely, I've always been an advocate for Fiverr, but I think right now, especially during this time of COVID and quarantine and staying at home, it's even more essential. More people are looking for gig work. More people are looking for opportunities to make money. We saw, like, specifically, we're thinking about the United States, we saw the spike in unemployment. So Fiverr is definitely a tool for that, as well as folks that are now having to launch their own businesses and products and services. They're looking to platforms like Fiverr to find freelancers and support staff and maybe even full-time employees to help them bring their ideas to life. So as Marcy mentioned, my name is Georgie-Ann McCoy, and I am an execution strategist. Today, I'll be talking to you guys all about how to turn your expertise into a virtual event. I've been doing virtual events for the last 3 years, virtual event production under my agency, GSD Solutions. And so in this presentation, I just want to give you guys a short overview of the things to think about, because oftentimes people just skip over these initial first steps that could make or break whatever idea or whatever event that you're trying to produce. So these few steps that I'm going to talk about, 3 key strategies, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A if anyone has any questions. So, think of your questions. You'll see the Q&A down below for you to add the questions there. And then when it's Q&A time, we'll answer those questions. All right, let me grab my screen for you guys. Awesome. Alrighty. So how to turn your expertise into a virtual event. If you guys want to follow me on social or connect with me on social, it's at GSD with Georgie on every single platform: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the good stuff. Okay, so again, I'm the execution strategist, and I came up with this title because I love to execute. And if you guys joined in a little bit earlier in the icebreaker question, I said my biggest thing that I found out during this quarantine was that I prefer to execute. I have a lot of ideas. I've launched a bunch of businesses and concepts, but my passion and what gives me the most energy is to see an idea, whether it's my own or someone else's, and then work with them to bring that idea to life. Execution takes being resourceful, being strategic, being action focused, and as you can see from my shirt, is all about the action, all about getting ish done. So we keep it PG for the session. Again, on all social medias at GSC with Georgie. So before we start, ask yourself these 3 questions, and you could answer them in the chat, and then we'll revert to the chat a little bit later. But ask yourself, why do you want to produce a virtual event? Right? You guys are all here to learn how to turn your expertise into a virtual event. Is it because you want to monetize? Is it because you want to get more leads? Is it because you want to generate more customers? Is it because of all of the above? Is it you want to tighten up that expertise? That's the first question to think about. Second question, what is your top skill? What are you really, really good at? I just said my top skill is execution. I'm really, really good at seeing a problem and then coming up with some type of unique makeshift solution that gets the thing done. That's my top skill. What is yours? How have you previously monetized your skills? A couple weeks ago, we did a webinar right here with Fiverr. It should be on YouTube, or we could ask Marcy for the link afterwards. But how have you previously monetized your skills? Do you have a consulting agency? Do you have a webinar? Do you have products and services? What are you doing at the moment to monetize your skills, and how have you previously done that? So think about these 3 questions while we're going through the presentation. But we're gonna dive right in. Ain't no time for fluff here. So strategy number 1 is to pinpoint a topic. And the big question in pinpointing a topic is, what do I know really well, right? What am I the expert at? And when you're thinking about what am I the expert at, what did you go to, you could start some starting points for this is what did I go to school for, right? Did I go to school for graphic design and I'm a really, really, really good graphic designer? And if we want to niche that out even more, I went to school for graphic design. I'm an expert at Illustrator. No one is better than me at Illustrator. I could do anything that, you bring your idea to me, I could create that illustration. I am the best at Illustrator. Is that what your expertise is? Or I am the best at grammar. You could bring any type of essay to me, any type of writing to me, and I will clean that bad boy up. It would be perfect and written in the Queen's English or whatever language you want it to be in. But that's what I'm an expert at. What do you know really, really well? Or maybe you didn't go to school for this. Maybe it's something self-taught or handed down in generations. I am the queen at crocheting. That is what I do. I am the king at voiceovers. What are you really, really good at and you have a strong expertise in? And think of things that people often come to you for. So it doesn't have to be something tech-based, something business-based, something that you learned in school. Maybe you give really, really good advice about dating. Maybe that's your expertise. Maybe you give good advice about styling your hair. Maybe that's your expertise. But you have to narrow down. And so a quick activity to help you do this is to just think again, what are the things that I went to school for? What are the things that people recognize me for? What are the things that I really enjoy doing and I do well? And with those three things in mind, make a list, make a short list of these are the things that I think I'm really great at. And then start narrowing down, right? To help you narrow, let's say you got a list and you have 5 things. I'm really good at Illustrator. I'm really good at hair. I'm really good at speaking. I'm really good at, actually, let's go to 3. I don't want to do all this. So hair, speaking, Illustrator, right? Then next to each of those 3 items, what you want to do is say, think about, 1, do you enjoy doing that thing? You could be really good at something, but you might not enjoy it. So these are the criteria to narrow it down. Do you really enjoy teaching that thing? Do you really enjoy being instructional, or is this just a passion thing for you? You don't really want to bring like a level of stress to it, because sometimes teaching and being an expert in an area becomes stressful. You don't want to be an influencer for that specific thing or that topic. You just really like it and you're passionate about it, right? You don't want to monetize it in that way. Then shelve that one. That's another thing to make you think about this a little bit clearer again is, do you have the time that it will take to properly teach that topic, right? This, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, but do you have the time to properly teach the time it takes to properly teach that thing, right? If it's here, maybe it's not going to take long for a simple, braid, right? For people to learn a braid, but maybe it's going to take a very long time for them to learn how to install a wig or how to create a wig, right? If that's your expertise. And so do you have the time to commit to teaching that session in a proper way that people understand it? Because that's you in these sessions, especially if you do a webinar, and we're going to talk about the different types of virtual events you could produce in a few minutes, but depending on the type of session, you have to think of, do I have the time to properly teach that type of session in the platform or the format that I need for people to correctly get the idea and actually then, implement what you've taught them. I know this sounds a little bit jumbled, but the key is thinking of, what are you going to teach? What does it take to teach that? And how will you make sure that people get results at the end of it? Because anybody could anybody could jump on a video chat. Anybody could jump on behind a camera. We all have smartphones, laptops, computers, whatever it might be. But you might really love a topic, but when it comes to teaching, you have no idea how to convey that, right? I love to cook certain things. If I was to try to teach somebody how to cook that thing, it might not be the same experience, right? So you just have to really clarify, what are you good at? What do you know how to teach? And what can you teach in the proper time and format that you have on your hands to teach? And then how are you going to teach that thing to the folks? And we're going to talk about how in a moment. So that's the big question to think about in the beginning. What do I know well? What do I have the time to teach? And what will I be a good teacher at teaching? Strategy number 2, right? Virtual event format. So there are different ways that you could produce a virtual event. And I've narrowed it down for my agency, and we've narrowed it down to 3 different formats. So you see this repeating theme of 3. It's a good number. But we've narrowed it down to 3 different formats. And these 3 formats are meetings, lectures, and experiences. Let me explain. When you think of a meeting, you think of a small group. So a meeting is usually a little bit informal. People already have an idea who they're going to meet there or what type of topics they're going to learn there. A meeting, I would say, averages no more than 25 people. There's a leader of the meeting, and then folks maybe go around the table. 1 or 2 people may be able to talk, or maybe everyone gets the time to share. It wouldn't be longer than maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours at most. But a meeting is usually a small group setting, a little bit more intimate. There's like a leader, and then everyone gets a little opportunity to speak. Then we think of a lecture. So this event right now would be considered a lecture. I come on, I have, it's content heavy. I'm teaching something. It's a topic that to be learned, lectures, school, that's what you should be thinking of when you think of a lecture. So that's a lecture format of an event. Then you have experiences. So experiences are conferences, summits, there's networking, there's panels, there's talks, there's workshops. So it's just this immersive experience of, there's vendors, there's sponsors, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's mainly experiential. You have to be there, you have to show up, you have to be present, you have to be chatting. Like, it's a lot focused on the experience, that what you go away with feeling from the experience, than just the content that would be in a lecture, or just, a quick informational session and a, group meeting that would be in a meeting format. So meetings, lectures, and experiences are the 3 formats. And I have a deeper breakdown in a blog post on my website if you head on over to GSD Solutions. So meetings, lectures, formats. Do not forget these, because we're about to get to the 3rd point, and it also breaks down again into 3, but don't worry. Again, meetings, small groups. Lectures, you can have over 5,000 people at a lecture, because the focus point of the lecture is for them to get the content, get the information. They may engage a little bit through chat, but it's not engaging together. It's mainly them asking questions to the speaker or responding to something that the speaker is saying. They're just students listening to the lecture. Experiences, you want attendees to be connecting with each other. You want them to feel good. You want them to come away with this immersive experience. Keep those at the top of your mind. And then strategy number 3 now, right, is for how to do a virtual event, is having the event type. This is key, and this is probably the part that most of you guys register for the website, for the webinar to see. And it's, again, I break it down into 3 different types of ways that you could do the virtual event. You could have 1, a live stream, 2, a course, 3, a webinar. Let's start one by one. Live stream. So when you think of live stream, think of Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Instagram Live, LinkedIn Live, Periscope, that's Twitter Live. A live stream where somebody comes on the session, it's open to the public, anybody could attend or watch the session, they could share it. You're seeing the comments, again, mainly they're on the screen, the comments are going, they might be engaged with the comments, but mostly they're just there giving the content, kind of pouring the content in. So a live stream, if you guys are following, will match up to maybe a lecture. Live stream wouldn't really be good for a meeting unless you're just having the attendees watch the meeting. So a lecture or an experience could work as a live stream. Because again, people are like, emoji, smiley face. When you think of events like, I don't know if you've been watching on Instagram, the versus battles, right? Those are experiences through a live stream. A YouTube concert, experiences through live stream. A Facebook chat, Q&A, AMA on Twitter, an event, an experience through live stream. And then we've seen people do, again, lectures through live stream, where somebody will come on a live stream and teach a specific topic, and it's like streaming to everyone that, wants to watch. A lot of news folks do these, a lot of like webinars, not webinars, a lot of folks do these like content heavy. Here's how to do XYZ. That's the live stream, but it's a lecture format where it's just I'm pouring information into you. Live stream. Some tools and platforms to help you do a live stream. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, what else? Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram have a live stream feature directly on the platform. You don't have to hook up anything to them unless you want to. You can make it a little bit fancier, but all these 3 platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, have a live streaming feature right on the platform. So you could just pick up your phone or your laptop, hit go live, and you'll be going live on those 3 platforms. Then if you want to go live on Twitter, you need to use Periscope in order to do that, so that streams into that. And if you want to go to live on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn now, it requires you to have an outside tool. So some of the tools that I use for LinkedIn Live is, one, you have to apply for LinkedIn Live. So you can't just get it. You have to apply, and it take a few weeks to accept applications. And I think now, because of COVID, it's taking a lot longer for people to get accepted. But that's how LinkedIn Live is. But when you're going live on LinkedIn, you have to use an outside streaming service or platform. So a few that might ring a bell for folks is StreamYard.com. So StreamYard is a platform that allows you to connect multiple channels into your live stream, and then you go live on StreamYard, and then it pushes the content to those additional channels. If you're gonna go live on LinkedIn, for StreamYard, you could connect either LinkedIn, Facebook, either your personal Facebook, a Facebook page, or even a Facebook group. Then you could also connect your Periscope, which again is Twitter. You connect YouTube Live. So YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So those are the 4 that you could connect for when you're using StreamYard, or you could also connect RTMP. And an RTMP allows you to now stream to other things. You could stream to like Instagram live from a computer using an RTMP, but the main ones is and if you're at this beginner workshop, don't worry about like RTMP right now, but just StreamYard allows you to go live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. And then you could actually go live on all 4 of those platforms at the same time using StreamYard if you have like a premium account. If you have a medium account, like the in between, like the deluxe account, then you could go live on 2 platforms at the same time. So you're feeding into just StreamYard, but then it's going to all these other channels. And they also have like a free plan if you are interested. Another tool that you use for multi-streaming is Restream.io. This also works with LinkedIn. So if you want to stream, if you want to put it into one place, but it goes to many places, Restream.io is another tool you could use for that. You could stream to Twitch, again, LinkedIn Live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, through Periscope. And there's other platforms that folks will stream for, but I'm just naming like the top ones that people really know about and recognize. Another tool you could use for streaming, which takes a little bit more technical skills, I would say, is OBS. So OBS is an open source software that is completely free for folks to use. And my slides moved. And it allows you to, it's an RTMP, and so you could put in streaming keys and a bunch of links, and it'll allow you to have a whole fancy setup inside of OBS. So you literally have your own studio, and then it streams out to the other platforms that you've connected. If you're not super tech savvy, I would definitely say just start with StreamYard, Restream.io. OBS allows you for a more customized experience, but it takes a little bit while longer. Check out, there's a bunch of YouTube videos, and I also have some YouTube videos coming up about OBS as well. But it's a very good tool to use if you have the time. But that's just live streaming. That's just one. Then course. When you think of a course, it could either be a course that is canned. And when I say a canned course, that means everything is already pre-recorded. People just go on, they take the course at their own leisure. You're not really engaging with them. If they want to comment or email you throughout the course, they could do that, but it's not like you're with them week by week taking the course. So a canned course is a pre-recorded course. Then you can also have like a live course where the course happens over a series of weeks. You give material on the course platform, and then attendees and participants will do the coursework, and then you could have like a weekly live session to engage, ask questions, talk about the lesson learned, or maybe that's before the lesson, the homework for the lesson. You could do like a course. So a course still counts as a virtual event because you're not with the person. So some course platforms that are pretty popular is Teachable, Kajabi, Thinkific. I know Facebook recently launched a way to do courses inside of Facebook groups, but it's a little tricky. I haven't really used that one, but I definitely would recommend Teachable or Kajabi or Thinkific as platforms for producing a course. So when you think of a course, this could again meet the lecture format, meet the meeting format, as well as meet the experience format. So you have to figure out how do you want to, again, when I was talking a couple minutes ago about the heaviness of the information that you need to teach, right? Something as simple as, I don't know, how to use Zoom might be just a 1 week course, or maybe just a canned course. Here's everything. Take the course on your own. You don't need me. But something that, again, is a more tedious topic of your expertise, how to use Illustrator, how to build I don't know, how to build a Christmas tree map in Illustrator. Maybe that is a 4 week course. And then, the first week, how to build the stems. The second week, how to build the branches. The third week, how to build the snow, or how to build a 3D model using Illustrator. That sounds like a course that you can't just teach it in a 30-minute session. You want to have it over a course of, maybe 5 weeks. I don't know how long it takes to teach that. I don't know how to do that, but maybe it takes 5 weeks and then an hour a week plus homework. So depending on your expertise, that's how you map out the course. How long is it going to truly take someone to learn this thing and then be able to go out there and implement what they just learned? That's the thing that you need to think about. And then the final type of event format that I've narrowed down is webinar. So this right here that we're on is a webinar. Webinars, you pop up, you just join the session. It's a pretty condensed session. You come on. These slides keep moving themselves. I'm not even touching the keyboard. They are a condensed session, and then you come on, you have the opening, you get the content, then you ask your questions, and then everyone moves on. This webinar is a lecture format webinar, right? Where, only the speakers are on the stage. Everyone else is communicating through the chat. It's content heavy, and then Q&A. But you could also do a meeting style webinar where everyone is a part of the event. The teacher or the presenter gives the workshop, and then everyone could turn on their camera, turn on their mic, engage, ask questions, move around. And then, that trickles into a little bit of an experience. And then there's other platforms out there where you could do a webinar, and, do a webinar style event where there's like a registration, a login process, a webinar style event. But then at the end of the webinar style event, so an experience, some platforms like Hopin, Remo, GoToWebinar, Webinar Jam, there's a bunch of different platforms that allow you to do an experience style event where people are networking. So in an experience style event, I would teach the webinar, teach the topic. Then I would say, hey guys, here are breakout sessions, go engage, talk about it, and then meet us back here when you're done. And so we could wrap up and, clarify any misconceptions. So that's now an experience style brought to a webinar. And then you see like a conference or an online summit is just like a amplified webinar. And that's another way. You have the registration page, it's behind a wall, you can have upsells and offers and all the fancy things. There's so many different fancy gadgets and things that you could do with this, but I wanted to keep this really basic for you guys. Let's just wrap it up now. We could have or live stream or course or webinar. Those are the 3 event types. And then when we think of event formats, we have our meetings, lectures, and experiences. But before we do any of that, before we do even think about any of that, we need to think about, what is your expertise? What do I want to teach? How long will it take for me to teach this thing so that way my students can understand it and then go apply what they've been taught? And that's how, how to turn your expertise into a virtual event. There are different components to understand. There's going to be a ton of tools out there when you start exploring the market. There's going to be a ton of ways for you to either have that meeting or have that lecture or have that experience or live stream or course or webinar. Tons. But if you don't understand the core of all that, which is, what do I want to teach? How long is it going to take me to teach it? What format is best to convey this information so the students, my target students, will understand it and then be able to implement it? And then what type of event do I need to produce that will meet and work properly with the format, so that way it's just streamlined and it's clearly conveyed, people understand, and when the session is finished, whether it's a 10-week course or a 30-minute webinar, people understand exactly what you just taught. Then they become either, clients, leads, referrals, whatever you want to do with them, they actually convert into that thing. So I hope this webinar has been helpful and a good explainer, because I think oftentimes people just jump into this, right? Oh, this platform just came out, that platform just came out, but you're not understanding the core elements that it takes to put on a virtual event, and what it takes to make sure that you are successful in putting on a virtual event. Anyone can put on a virtual event, right? I could just go on Facebook Live right now and start streaming, and that's a virtual event. But what's the benefit of it for myself or my organization? And then what's the benefit of it for the attendee? And what am I going to receive or give at the end of it all? What's the bigger picture here is what oftentimes goes overlooked, because just, I want to have all the cool gadgets and live stream and a green screen and blah 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 blah. You can have all the cool gadgets, but if you have no clear plan of what you're going to teach, the format of it, the event type, how people are going to learn it, then it all kind of comes apart. So I hope this webinar was helpful, and I'd love to open it up for some Q&A. And this is my contact information if anybody wanted to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Georgie.
You're welcome.
That was great. I think we have a few questions coming into the Q&A. If you have them, please make sure to put those in there now. But I'm going to ask a couple before we ask those, as people are typing their questions. So you touched on this at the end of your webinar, actually. So you talked about conversion. Like, do you want these people to be clients, referrals, like whatever makes sense for you. But do you have any tips on how to actually make that conversion? Like, how are you following up with those people? And do you have any tips for either softwares or a way to organize that?
Yeah. So somebody asked for the contact information. So I'm just putting that in the chat. I just put my my email and social media in the chat, as well as my website. So how do you manage follow-up? So a few ways to do that is if you have a mailing list, right? Something super simple to use is MailChimp. Just create a MailChimp account, or even a ConvertKit. I think it's free up to 500 subscribers, and have a set, while you're doing the session, have a set email blast that goes out. Thank you for registering. This is who I am. This is, if you have any free offers, if you have any paid offers, here's my ebook. This is where you begin. You have to let people know that you have to first figure out your roadmap of what you want. And then you have to, when people come in, you have to bring them on that roadmap. So if your end goal is to convert, you want to convert everyone into a consulting client, right? Maybe your end goal is the course, right? It's a paid course, it's $500, $1,000, whatever it wants to be. You have to figure out your end goal and then build out the roadmap of what that looks like, so they know, okay, when you start, watch this video. 2 weeks in, read this ebook. Another 3 weeks in, check this email and attend this event. So people need to know exactly what to do, because if you leave it too much of a guessing game, especially somebody like me, I have a lot of content. I'll have a lot of things out there. So there's a lot of ways people come in, but once they're in, it's like, this is how you go, right? Like,
yes,
this is the roadmap to follow.
Very cool. Perfect. And then kind of along that same vein, if you're looking to monetize either the course you're giving or the webinar, do you have any tips for how to do that?
Yeah, so monetization goes directly back to the goal. If your goal is to monetize, you don't have to host a free webinar. You don't have to host a live stream, right? You could just start out the gate, depending on, again, what the content is and if that's where you want to monetize. So oftentimes when people do a free webinar, it's to monetize the upsell at the end. Like, they want to monetize with the upsell at the end. So the free webinar is just like a teaser. And then it's like, when you get in and you've loved it so much, it's like, oh, by the way, here's my $30 ebook. This is where the real sauce is. Like, I just gave y'all a taste, and this was half an hour, and you saw how much value you got. Now this book, it's not super expensive, will give you 14 times that value. You now know who I am. You now know that I'm gonna give it to you straight. I'm gonna give you what you need. Why not buy that ebook, or why not enroll in the, even if it's $1,000 course? So whatever that upsell is, so you just have to have like a clear goal. You can monetize the webinar itself. Maybe it's just, you do webinars every 2 weeks, $30 each webinar. It's an hour long. You only accept maybe, 40 people, or even if you want to accept like 5,000 people at $40 a person. It really depends on what you're trying to sell. If you're trying to sell consulting, make sure that's the upsell at the end of your session. If you're trying to sell one-off events and that's where you want to get that's the way you want to monetize, do that. But it all goes back to your goal of what do you expect from this. Maybe you don't want to monetize yourself. You want to have like a really big list because you want to go out to sponsors, corporate sponsors. Hey, look, I have 100,000 people that are on my list, sponsor me and have me speak at your bigger event. Like you want to seal that $10,000 client versus $30 a person for, a 100-person event. So looking at it from those different angles is how to best monetize. So whatever your financial goals are and how you want to serve your clients is how you determine, do I monetize this first event? Is it a free webinar? Is it a free live stream? And then I upsell to something at the end of the session or program.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Just like, what are you really looking for? Like a quick $30, or are you looking for like a pipeline of people who are really interested and really committed to what you're selling?
Exactly.
This is a quick one. But do you have any thoughts on how to, oh my gosh, I just had a question in my brain and I completely lost it. This has happened oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry. I remember. So if you're doing a live event for the first time, you and I have talked about this a couple of times. Can you briefly tell people what they should expect in terms of percentages of people showing up? Because I know there's a huge difference between like a live event and a paid event, and that can be kind of a shock if this is your first one.
Yeah, so I would say expect about a quarter of the people. Keep your expectations decently low. Why? Because things happen, whether it's like they just don't want to show up, it's rained. I've had an event that had an in-person event that had I think it was 50 people RSVP'd and nobody showed up. It was a really rainy day in New York City, and one person ended up showing up halfway through the event, but I didn't let it go to waste. I still, there was people in the space, and then because the event was the practice for a TEDx talk that I was doing. So I just talked to them. It was 5 random people and I had bought pizza. It was crazy. But I would say a good rule of thumb is about expect a quarter. And if more people than that show up, sometimes, half might show up, but expecting a quarter will allow you to plan accordingly. And everybody over that quarter will be surplus. Everybody over that quarter will be just a bonus and an added thing. And in-person events, if the event is free, a quarter is usually a good rule of thumb. If the event is paid, your percentage of people that will show up goes up a bit, maybe about a half. If you're super lucky, 3/4. I've seen maybe 2 events that got really close to the amount of people that registered showing up, and these were galas and fancy things where it's it's a experience. So experiential events usually have a higher turnout because people are just fun. Webinars, especially when they have a recording, people I can miss it, I'll just watch it later. But if an experience, if you don't go to the live, you're gonna miss something. It's that FOMO feeling, you're not gonna miss a concert just to watch. You're not gonna buy a concert ticket, miss the concert, and I'm just gonna watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna I want to feel the experience. I want to feel the sweat.
Yeah. I know, I miss concerts so much. I would say that's probably the live event that I miss the most out of all of quarantine. But yeah, I think that's great advice. And I remember when I first started getting into live events and online events, I was so paranoid about the number of people who would show up. And then I think at one point I even Googled it. I was what percentage should I expect for an online event? And the industry standard is 25%, just like you said. So if you have 100 people show up and only 25 if you have 100 people RSVP and only 25 show up, don't stress. It's not a failure. That's just how events go.
You're hitting the goals.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so Dee is asking, besides Zoom, what other platforms do you recommend? I'm assuming for this one, she means specifically for a webinar. And I know, Georgie, you have a lot of experience in different platforms. So do you want to give us a rundown of your favorites?
I really it's so hard to do because there's so many and it really ties into the goal and the format. So I would say, the way I narrow it down for specifically my brand is when I think of meetings, favorite is Zoom. When I think of webinars, favorite is Webinar Jam. When I think of experience, favorite is Remo. There are backups that I use in the event that it doesn't work or just something is going on, whatever happens. If I'm live streaming to multiple platforms, favorite is StreamYard. If I am doing a customized event and I'm live streaming to multiple platforms, favorite is OBS because it takes a lot longer, but it's really nice and pretty. So it really depends on what you're doing. Some people might just need Google Meet, right? It's completely free. It's online. I despise Google Meet. Uh, so, it really depends on what you're trying to do. So if you want to add, what are you trying to do? That helps determine the platform. And then in the webinar where I talked about, whatever format, right? Make sure the whatever platform that you're using, the features of let me say this again. Make sure whatever platform that you're using, so whether it's a Zoom, Webinar Jam, GoToMeeting, whatever platform that you're using, at least 50% of the features are based on the format of the event. And I'll break that out a little bit more. I've gotten people that will come to me and say, hey, I want to have a webinar that streams to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. And I'm like, that's not really a web, like, tell me a bit more about what you're trying to do. And they're like, well, I want people to be able to sign up and it's behind a wall. Only people that register can see it. I'm like, well, if only people that register can see it, you're defeating the purpose by also live streaming it to Facebook and YouTube. Those are public platforms. People are expecting, if it's a Facebook group, fine. If it's a YouTube live that's going to be embedded on a closed off page on your website, that works too. But if you're just like trying to get reach, you're also, do you want more views or do you want emails? You got to pick. You have to pick. You have to really be picky about what you want. And sometimes the platform that if you don't need people to be only in the chat and you're okay with everybody on the screen, then you're fine with just using Zoom versus Zoom webinar, right? Don't pay an extra 40 or 140, however much bucks, depending on the level that you want, if you're only going to be if you're using less than half of the features. So really think about, what do you want the format to be? And then whatever platform and event, format first, then event type, and then figure out what platform allows you to use at least 50% or more of the features, because there's a bunch of features on these platforms that go underutilized.
Yeah, that's really true. And I think webinar has become this like catch-all term for any virtual event. And it's just, especially now, like over the last 3 months, people have had to create these like awesome online networking tools. And like you were talking about Remo and Hop In earlier, those are awesome for conferences. And there's just so much out there now. So webinar is kind of like, I don't know, it's like old school at this point. Yeah. But I shouldn't say that because we're on a webinar right now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, you gotta find your format.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. We've gotten a few questions about organizing content. So specifically for courses. So do you have any, like for first timers especially, do you have any tips on if you're like creating a course, how to organize your thoughts to make those make sense to people taking the course?
Yeah, and I always go back to the scientific method. The who, what, when, where, why. Like the greatest thing I learned in school, because that allows you to map it out. So if you start with who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? Just mapping that out. How do people, like, let's say, I don't know what, mechanical engineering. I don't know why, but that's the topic that came to my head. How do you start to become a mechanical engineer? Why would somebody want to be a mechanical engineer? What is the foundations of mechanical engineering, right? So start answering those questions about whatever topic you're going to teach, and start, and then mapping it out. And then also go small, real small, because I realized this myself through my years of experience, is that something that I know that comes to me 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is not going to be the same way somebody that's learning it. You have to remember beginners. So teach it like you're teaching kindergartners, because that's what these people are. They're just starting to learn that topic. And if you start rattling off keywords, if you start rattling off terms and abbreviations and oh, but this is so easy. It's easy to you because you've been doing it for 20 years or even 3 years. That person is just picking up the computer and just getting started. And so, when I do these webinars and events, I try to teach it in a way that I could give as smallest key terms as possible. And if I do give a key term, I try to explain what that means and just break it down to the foundational elements. They are just starting out. So plan it as if you're, lesson planning for a kindergarten class. What is the initial key things that they need to know? Because those fundamental elements, like I said, we learned scientific method in like elementary school, but those foundations allowed me to build companies, right? You know, business plans are just an exaggerated scientific method, right? So really think of it as what is the core. If you didn't know anything else about this topic, you cannot go without knowing these fundamental things. And then if it's like a big topic, again, mechanical engineering, just start with one. You can have 10 or 15, 20 courses, but each course is just one thing. And then like I'm doing a YouTube series right now, like a 90-day challenge. And so in each video, it's just one little thing. So I did a event about how there was like one YouTube video was how to turn on Zoom backgrounds. The next video was how to create a Zoom background. The next video, how to upload this Zoom background. Next video, how to have an event with the Zoom background. So that's 4 videos. But when if I wrap it all up, it's creating Zoom backgrounds, like how to create a Zoom background, but it's like 4 micro videos, because if you throw it all at folks at the same time, they're not gonna get the result. And if you break it down into smaller chunks, your course will have different like chapters, but also break down each topic into a course, because you don't want to have it overwhelm people, and you want them to be able to get results at the end. That's how you get more people in your courses, how you get clients, how you get leads, or how you keep building that relationship. You want to have results at the end. So what can I teach you to allow you to get a result so you love me and then tell all your friends about me?
For anyone interested, I also just posted Georgie's YouTube page in the chat. I was actually looking at it right before this webinar, and it's super well done. It's really helpful, so I would definitely recommend checking that out. Also, hang on one second. Okay, this is a question from Anonymous. How do you go live on all social media at the same time? Do you recommend to let everyone know before the time? And if yes, how do you do that? This is the one you said StreamYard is the best one. Is that right?
Yeah. So before I get to that, you can't go live. As of right now, there's no platform that allows you to go live on every single social media. So you have to pick and choose.
Okay.
So StreamYard, they have, I think the premium plan is, if I'm not wrong, $39 a month, or maybe it's 75. I don't know, but it's like more than 30 bucks a month. And that allows you to do 4 at a time. And that's Restream that, not Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you're using something like OBS, there's ways to go to more platforms. Instagram, right now there's no verified way to go live on Instagram from a computer, but you could do it from your phone. But there's like Yellow Duck and Lola.tv that allows you to stream from your computer to Instagram, and then you could connect OBS to that, but it gets complicated and messy. So I would say narrow it down. Your best bet is to try to go 3 at once. 3 is a good number. So if you want to do like Instagram from your phone, and then YouTube and Facebook from your computer, or like Restream or StreamYard, then that works. But you have to just pick. There's really no need. There's no reason to be going on every single one at the same time. If you do something like a YouTube, then you just go live on YouTube, share the link on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And how do you share that? I would tell people beforehand, as well as send out a flyer. Create like a little flyer graphic in like a Canva or Adobe or whatever you use to create graphics. You could even do something in a Google Slides. You could create graphics in there too. So create a flyer, or go live on those different platforms individually. Hey, you guys, catch us tonight at 7 p.m. We'll be going live on YouTube. The link is in my bio. You'll do that on Instagram. You do that on LinkedIn. You do that on Twitter. You do that on Facebook. Then you post a link. They'll know you're going to be live on YouTube. Meet you there at 7 o'clock. So that would be the way to get that done.
Awesome. Perfect. And then I see a couple people also asking if they're going to get the recording for this webinar. The answer is yes. You also have all of Georgie's contact information in the chat, and I will also send that out in a follow-up email. Georgie, thank you so much for being here today and taking all these questions. Again, Georgie's information is in the chat, so if you want to get in touch with her, please do. I know there was a few like really specific questions we didn't get to today, but I know that she would be happy to answer those over email. But yeah, and thank you all for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm impressed that I know what day it is today, because I feel like, actually, Georgie, you were the one who told me this, and I like repeat it to people all the time. I think you said your husband said something to the effect of like, there's only 3 days in a week now. It's yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And I thought that was so funny, because it's true. There's no differentiation between the
Yeah,
weekdays
we wake
anymore.
up and we go to sleep, and we don't even go to sleep at the right times. Like, who has the
Exactly.
time? Like, it's
I
okay
know.
though.
I know.
Welcome to what is it called? The Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I love it. Also, if you're interested in more Fiverr events, we have one almost every single day at this point. You can go to events.fiverr.com. You can see all of them posted there. And then we also have the wonderful forum. That's forum.fiverr.com. And you can have conversations about the events that you went to there. I think there's actually a thread specifically for this webinar on there if you want to go and chat with people who also came to it and swap ideas. So again, Georgie, thank you so much. And we will see all of you at the next one.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you
everyone.
guys. Bye.
Bye.